Tuesday, 20th of October 2020 at 3 p.m. I hope you are all doing well. We've got no apologies, so we've got a full house. We've got a number of councillors who are attending. Welcome to councillors who are attending besides the cabinet members, and look forward to your contributions. Membership of the cabinet, we are all here. Item 2, minutes of previous meetings. Is there anybody who wants to propose the minutes as a correct record? Can I propose them? Are we all okay to agree them as a correct record? I'll take that as a yes. Thank you, members. If any member has got any interest, please declare them on the form given. And also, you'll realise that we've got an item around financial information. So members are reminded of the provisions of Section 106 Local Government Act 1992 in relation to agenda item 10. This means that if you are present today and any amount of council tax is payable by you and has remained unpaid for the last 2 months, you should at the meeting and as soon as applicable after this commencement disclose the facts to the Section 106 officer as applies to you, and shall not vote on any question concerning agenda item 10. If that applies to you, please let us know. But I'm assuming that none of you are in that situation. But I had to read that out as was. Carol, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I just thought it was important to declare an interest here rather than just put it on the form.
Yes,
for item 9, as Vice Chair of K&H Board, I won't be taking part in any vote on this item.
Councillor Naheed Mither. Naheed? Naheed?
Yes, I would like to declare an interest on item 9 as Chair of K&H Board. I will not be voting on this item.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Mather and Councillor Patterson. Item 4, admission of the public. We've got a few members of the public attending. Welcome to you all. I don't think we've got any deputations of petitions. Am I right, Richard? There is no deputation, but yeah, no deputation of the petitions. Item 6, we've got 4 questions from a member of the public, James Taylor. James, welcome to the meeting. Your first question is to myself. Andrea, do you want to, sorry, is it Lee? Lee, do you want to read the question and then I will answer the question?
She's off, it's her birthday today.
Andrea's off, yeah, it's her birthday, so you've got Lee here from
Government. Oh, right, okay.
Happy
birthday, Andrea.
So we have 4 questions, all from Councillor James, from Mr. James Taylor. First one is, what work is the council doing to enable that some of the remembrance services will take place across the borough on Remembrance Sunday? As Cabinet will be aware, the Remembrance Sunday service in Mirfield is usually one of the largest in the country. I'm aware we're all in a difficult position at the moment with local lockdowns. However, do the council feel something will be able to happen, abiding, of course, by the national and local restrictions?
Thanks, James. An excellent question and very timely as well. And you're right, this is a really, really important time of the year that we're coming into regarding remembering our war heroes. As always, we are fully committed to remembrance services in Kirklees, and during the pandemic, these are challenging times. And the situation regarding COVID-19, despite that, the council will be delivering an online civic service to commemorate Remembrance Sunday. And I urge yourself and everybody else in Kirklees to take part, because the more we can actually get online to enjoy and celebrate and commemorate the great event, the better it'll be. So basically, residents will be asked to tune in to the service on the 8th of November for Remembrance Sunday and take part in a 2-minute silence across the borough rather than attending services. And I need to say, these times are so challenging that I would not advise anybody to actually gather, because we need to make sure that we keep that social distancing and that protocol to make sure we stay safe and others are safe. But at the same time, it's important that we demonstrate that to the government, because at this moment in time, I'm in communication with government to actually make sure that we help them, work with them to make sure that we keep the virus at bay. So the 2-minute silence will be on the 11th of November. I'm to stay, and people will be encouraged to observe that where they can. We'll also be lighting up Victoria Tower, Castle Hill Tower that is called, and all the town halls will be fully lit up from 6 p.m. onwards on the 8th of November. So I hope, James, that answers your question. It's not an ideal situation, but this is not an ideal month, and we will carry on doing everything we can to make sure that we do remember our war heroes. Thanks very much. I've got question 2 to James, or from James to Councillor Rob Walker. Lee, do you want to read the question, please?
Yeah, again, second question from Mr. Taylor. On Wednesday night, Thursday morning, for the first time this autumn, the Spen Bet at Northope and the River Calder at Ledyard Bridge both were recorded on the Gov website as exceeding the flood line on the relevant graphs. What work has the local authority been undertaking to protect businesses and households since the River Calder reached its highest ever recorded level of 5 metres 40 on the 9th of February 2020? And has Kirklees been raising any concerns of flooding or making any recommendations to the Environment Agency?
Thank you, Lee. Councillor Rob Walker.
Okay, thank you. The Council's flood management team has investigated the premises that were affected during Storm Cara, and they've been also investigating the causes of this flooding. This is ongoing and will help to shape an action plan which is being put together with the Environment Agency. Since Storm Cara, the Council has given out financial support to over 81 businesses and 85 residential homes, a total financial assistance of just over £300,000. Tax relief and business relief has also been provided, which has given a further total financial support of £33,000. The Council's soon to launch its Property Flood Resilience Grant Scheme, which will give up to £5,000 to eligible properties. This will assist premises in carrying out works to their homes or businesses to become more resistant to flooding in the future. It's estimated that around £1 million worth of financial assistance will be given to residents from this fund. The Council's also been working closely with the Environment Agency. We've shared our information with the Environment Agency, and this has led to further work, which is going to culminate in the Environment Agency commissioning a catchment-wide flood alleviation study. Well, 3 of these, one for the River Calder, which will be supporting communities, particularly Murfield and Ravensthorpe. A further study for the River Spen, which will be particularly focusing on Cleckheaton, and the third study will be looking at Batley Beck. These are planned to start in the new financial year, so they'll be taking place next year. We're also continuing to work with the Environment Agency and a number of other organisations such as Yorkshire Water and the National Trust on natural flood management measures. These are taking place in the upper reaches of the Colne and Home. So yes, we are working extremely closely with outside bodies such as the Environment Agency to tackle this ongoing concern.
Thank you, Councillor Rob Walker. Question 3 from James Taylor to Councillor Peter McBride. Lee, do you want to read the question, please?
Yeah. Looking at the plans that Network Rail published on Monday the 5th of October for the proposed rail line upgrade between Huddersfield and West Town, I read that moving part of the line on the Colne Bridge-Murfield border would lead to damage and loss of wildlife habitats, especially for badgers and bats. If and when this project gets on track, does Kirklees have a duty of care in trying to protect wildlife and their habitats, even if the land isn't owned by Kirklees but Network Rail?
Councillor Peter McBride. Peter?
Thank you. The upgrade is an a Network Rail Department of Transport project. They will need to prepare an environmental impact assessment. Network Rail have a duty of care for wildlife and protected species. They will have a duty to implement protection and restoration as necessary. The Council will be able to assess impacts on protected wildlife and species in any planning application. This is the fulfilment of our responsibilities.
Thank you, Councillor Peter McBride. James, final questions from James Taylor to Councillor Walker. Lee, do you want to raise the question, please?
I follow Kirklees on social media and get emails from Kirklees Together, which tend to be full of useful information, and no doubt Kirklees' winter Twitter feed will be coming out of hibernation soon. So may I ask, what are the current grit stock levels in readiness for winter, and how do stock levels compare to previous years?
Right. Okay, thanks very much, James, for this question, and thanks for raising the importance of people using Twitter and Facebook and our website to gain information about our preparations to deal with icy conditions over the winter. We've been working very hard on this, and we would encourage people to visit our website to familiarise themselves with our gritting routes, the location of grit bins, and other helpful guidance. Specifically, in relation to the issue of our grit stockpiles, the service has been very proactive in preparing for winter, especially given the impact of the pandemic. We've got 25,000 tonnes of grit in our stockpiles, which is our normal strategic capacity, and we've been at this level for several weeks now. And I can personally attest that the main stockpile in Slathwaite has been growing over the summer and looks now to be ready for anything that the winter can throw at us.
Thank you. That's the end of question time. We'll move on to item 7. Question by elected members. We've got 30 minutes for this item. So, Richard, can you just let me know who's indicated to speak, please?
Councillor Bolt.
Councillor Martin Bolt. Martin, question from you, please.
Thank you, Leader. Can you tell me who is running or leading this council?
I am.
Thank you for that. Supplementary question then. Can you tell me why so many decisions are being made away from public scrutiny, with no consultation or accountability? For example, who mothballed the mayoralty, taking a decision to stop our first citizen and deputy supporting our communities? Unlike
Martin,
other
can I just stop you there? The mayoralty has got nothing to do with this cabinet. It's a council decision. That was made very, very clear. So can we please retract that, please? The other question
if you'd let me finish,
Martin, the mayoralty.
If you'd let me ask a question, I would be able to educate you.
Martin, I won't take any questions on mayoralty. It's not a function of this cabinet. It's a function of the council.
No, it's not. You are mistaken.
Martin.
If you'd let me explain, you are mistaken.
Clarify what you're saying then.
Yeah, the appointment of the mayor is a council function. The discharge of the duties, the organisation of the civic office, the employment of staff within it, and all the other functions are administrative functions which fall under a council service. They are not a council function. So if you'd let me explain who took the decision to stop the mayor carrying out any duties.
Martin, there is a question relates to the function of the mayor's office. We are in a pandemic, and we will take national guidance.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about mayoralty. Martin, mayoralty is not a political issue, right? Yeah, you know. And I don't understand why you're raising this issue at this moment in time.
If you'd let me kindly finish before interrupting, do the courtesy of letting people finish a question before you try and make up an answer. Unlike other authorities and proactive authorities such as Labour-run Kingston upon Hull, where the Lord Mayor has maintained a proactive stance throughout the pandemic supporting his communities, Kirklees has not. Can you publish the civic diary for this municipal year so we can see what functions have been attended.
Well, we can do that, not a problem, right? Yeah. Going back to your first question about public scrutiny and meetings and all the rest, I don't know where you've been, Martin, but for the best part of this year, since March, we have faced the biggest challenge this planet has faced for many, many years. Very, very recently, the government has actually now said that we are probably going to go into further measures. I hope the measures are taken into full consideration of how we can safeguard people's lives, safeguard people's neighbourhoods, and safeguard the economy. And for me to actually sit here and listen to what you're saying, Martin, right? Yeah, I'm actually disappointed, even for you, Martin.
Have a word with your colleagues
Martin,
in Kingston.
what is we are trying to work the best as we can.
Yes, and so
and if that's the best you can do, right, Martin? Seriously, even for you, Martin,
supports the moral and community.
Martin, regarding the function of the mayor, Martin, regarding the function of the mayor, it's nothing to do with the cabinet.
It is.
It's a function. It's not, Martin. It's the function of the mayoralty, right? Yeah, and I'll get some guidance on that, Martin. I don't want to.
The mayor doesn't control the service.
Martin.
One of us in this conversation has been the mayor. One of us hasn't.
Martin, I have to. I don't want to cut you off, Martin, but I will do. I've made my position very, very clear. The function of the mayor and the function of the mayor's office, right? Yeah, is nothing to do with this leadership. You know, it's a function that the mayor's office carries on.
Yes.
And I don't want to make an issue out of this. I hope that clarifies.
I'm seeking clarity. Who directs the mayor's office?
Martin, it's not a function of this cabinet. I'll find out and get back to you.
Who is responsible? Because the mayor's office reports through Deborah Nicholson, Carl Whistlecraft. Who is the cabinet member responsible for Carl Whistlecraft?
Martin, the function of the mayor's office is a function for the mayor. Other cabinet do not have any responsibility for that.
So it's the mayor's decision not to attend any functions this year?
No, Martin, it's not the mayor's decision. The decision, right, is based on the pandemic.
No, it's not.
And Martin, listen to what I'm saying. I will cut you off, Martin, seriously. And I don't have any hesitation. I've got no hesitation to cut you off because you're making an issue out of something, yet it's not an issue.
I'm not. I'm seeking guidance.
Well, I'll get some guidance back.
And why other authorities are still carrying on, but
Kirklees
they're not,
Martin. They're not, Martin. They're not.
How many times does it show you pictures of
Martin,
Steve Wilson down
have you got another question? Have you got another question?
Yes, I have then. And it relates actually to something that was said earlier on. Along with other authorities, Kirklees received a letter in early August from the Royal British Legion, which is unconnected to the current COVID situation, setting out that the council had the responsibility for funding and delivery of armistice, remembrance and other commemorations. Someone took the decision on the 26th of August to say that of the 60 events that Kirklees has had historically and which it inherited from our predecessor authorities, of the 60 events around the borough, one would be supported and maybe another added. Who took that decision to exclude 58 communities from a duty which this council has had historically and which it inherited from our predecessor authorities?
I'll get you a response back from that Martin. I won't do it justice, so I won't be fair to actually try and take a while. I'll get back to you.
The decision?
I will get back to you on that, Martin.
Why are these decisions not being taken in public?
I've told you, right? Yeah, you know, it's a very important question you asked, and we need a proper answer to that, right? Not just you, but all 69 councillors and the community as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please. From
Councillor Anthony Smith.
Councillor Anthony Smith. Anthony, you got a question, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm not sure which cabinet member this needs directed to, so perhaps you could point it in the right direction. I noticed that the Kirklees cohesion team were out and about with local councillors in Batley Marketplace last week. They were handing out COVID-19 information packs, hand sanitizer, face coverings, etc. This is obviously a welcome initiative and something that Lindley Council has asked for several months ago. Are there any plans to roll this programme out across all wards in Kirklees? And if I could just say the Lindley ward councillors ready to get involved in any project that will inform the public and help keep the rate of infection down in our area.
Councillor Smith, you're probably aware, 31st of July, we went into local restrictions. and part of the local restrictions made this council quite concerned on our communities. Very shortly after that, along with our MPs, who lobbied very, very hard with this council, most of the wards were taken out of the restrictions. There were 3 wards in Dewsbury and 2 wards in Batley who were kept in restrictions. On the back of that, we agreed with the national government that we will be working more closely with those communities. So the 2 wards you talk about was as a result of us doing that detailed work of the 2 wards out of the 5 that were in restrictions to make sure that we actually get the virus under control. But you're right, we need to do a lot more of that work across Kirklees because the infection rate has actually gone high across the borough. It's still not gone as high as other places, but it's still going high in relation to what other authorities are experiencing. So we will continue to work with government to make sure that we get as many resources as we can to actually start that local level working that is much needed.
Supplementary, please.
Yes.
So is that kind of a commitment to rolling out a similar programme across the wards?
Yeah, no, the commitment is there, but in terms of resourcing and time, we need to think about. But I think Rob wants to come in. Rob, do you want to come in?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, it's just an offer that I will follow this up with the community response hub for South Kirklees. Councillor Scott and I have been working with the community response hubs, looking at things like this. And there has been some work happening in other wards. So I will follow this up for you, Anthony, and I will get back to you before the end of the week to see if we can put something in place.
Fabulous, thank you.
Okay.
You're on mute, Shabir.
Don't spoil it.
Right, sorry about that. Councillor Nigel Patrick, have you got a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've got 2 questions, both are supplementaries. First one I think is for Councillor Walker, but I'm not sure. I'll let you decide.
Yeah, Councillor Patrick, let's take first. Yeah, let me explain how this is. We'll answer your first question, and then we'll go around all the councillors, and we'll come back, time permitting. So your first question, please.
Springwood Road and Myrie Lane, in my ward, are busy roads serving a large residential area, Holmfirth High School, and also used as a cut-through to Huddersfield Road and the Aldi supermarket. Over 12 years ago now, we asked for a school drop-off point to be built on school land adjacent to Thongs Bridge Co-op. That scheme, which is planning permission and is fully funded, has yet to be delivered. How much longer do we have to wait before you deliver this scheme?
Councillor Walker, do you want to answer that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Patrick, for the question. I do know that this issue has been around for some time. Where exactly we're up to it with it, I'm not exactly sure, but I will investigate. I will talk to officers in the Highways Department, and I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Supplementary. In the intervening years, we have sadly had one fatality, and recently there was another accident took place on Myrie Lane. The situation is getting worse. Would you please deliver this safety scheme within the next 12 months?
As I've already said, Councillor Patrick, I do need to consult with officers in the Highways Department before I get back to you. But I do promise that this will happen promptly.
Next question then. Councillor, it's probably to Councillor McBride, this one. Your head of planning. Sorry?
Nigel, can I just, can I go around all councillors and I'll come back to you? I want to make sure I get all councillors in first. Yeah, I'll come back to your question once I get other councillors in. Next question from which councillor? The next?
Councillor John Taylor.
Councillor John Taylor. John, your question, please.
Yeah, I think this is. It feels like we're picking on you today, Rob, but I think this is for Councillor Walker. But I'll be guided. Does this council take road safety seriously?
Councillor Walker.
Yes.
Yeah. John, supplementary.
Supplementary. Yeah. If this council takes road safety seriously, why is it that 2 out of the 3 speed activated indicators in my ward are not working, haven't been working for 4 or 5 months, and despite me raising the issue multiple times with highways, nothing happens? So it's just a question of competence, really, Rob, that if we do take road safety seriously, one would assume that we would respond promptly when things aren't working. And obviously residents are questioning whether we do take things seriously because they're clearly not there.
Right, thanks for that question, John. I cannot give you a detailed answer now about these specific speed cameras, but I will follow it up with the road safety team within highways, and I will get back to you. Again, I do promise I will do this promptly as well.
Thank you. Richard, who's next for the question?
Back to the beginning.
Right, Councillor Nigel Patrick, your turn again. Nigel, your question, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'll get used to it, I'm sure. Councillor McBride, the head of planning believes that there is an engineering solution to fix every problem. Do you agree with him?
I don't know whether I agree with a massive generalisation. If you give me more detail, I may respond more effectively.
Right, well, supplementary then.
Yes.
At 4 sites in Home Valley South, where new homes are being built, we have seen neighbouring property flooded as a direct result of the new build. Given that your planning service seems to be struggling to ensure proper engineering solutions are found for surface water drainage, how confident are you that new houses can be built on a former landfill site in a way that secures the safety of the new homeowners and existing neighbouring properties?
I don't know the detail of this. I do know the responsibility ultimately lies with the developer, and Kirklees will apply its own criteria to ensure that those standards are enforced. So if you give me details of this particular scheme, I will investigate to see what actions have been taken to ensure the appropriate enforcement is undertaken.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peter McBride. Councillor John Taylor, you got a second question? John, over to you.
Thank you, Shabir. I think this one is for Councillor Mather.
Okay.
Councillor Mather, are you proud of the council's recycling record?
Thank you, John. I would like to say we can do better, and we are driving or striving towards doing better. We will shortly be having a consultation out to the public asking what they would like to see in relation to reducing overall household waste. Thank you.
Okay, so John, you got a supplementary?
Yeah, I asked a number of weeks ago why we weren't able to recycle cardboard. I still haven't really had an answer. Cardboard is one of the most easily recycled materials. There is a ready market for it, and we are at our tips telling people to put it into the general waste so it will be incinerated or taken to landfill. Now, there is a simple solution out there to enable us to immediately improve our recycling rates and, you know, give people the opportunity to do what there is a real demand out there to do, which is to minimise waste. But you don't seem to have taken any action since I last raised the issue, and I've raised it on several occasions now. When will you be taking some firm action to enable people of this borough to start to recycle cardboard again?
Thank you, John. I have always been taking all of this waste minimisation situation very seriously. And despite, I am sorry that you haven't heard, we have been working in the background, but the current pandemic, it's like one step forward and two back. So we were almost there negotiating to take this back on. Now we're talking about health and safety and which tier we're going to be on. But your concerns are noted. It is something that we want to do, and we're just waiting for the pandemic to calm down, because we have to take on board the health and safety issues of both our staff and our residents on board before we do what you are saying, which we do want to continue to do as we move forward. And I'm sorry you haven't had a reply. In fact, I checked before Cabinet where it was and I haven't had a response, so I will go back and ask for it. Thank you.
Can I ask you to turn your video off, please? Your video's on. They've been requesting you on chat to turn the video off. So only put your video on if you're talking. Once you've spoken, I'd ask you to turn the video off. So Martin, you're still on, so please turn it off. John, you got another question?
I had signified a while ago before Nigel that I wished to ask a question.
Sorry, Martin.
At 3:26.
My apologies, Martin. Once you ask your question, can you please turn your video off? Thanks. Go, Martin.
Thank you very much. Returning to the issue of the Transpennine route upgrade, where can residents see Kirklees' response to Network Rail's proposals so that residents can look at Kirklees' stance with regards to the proposed disruption to our roads, the closure of active travel routes, the failure to provide effective passenger waiting facilities at key railway stations such as Murfield, and all the other issues? Where can residents see what Kirklees have said?
Peter?
Yeah.
Peter.
Martin, you might address the same question to your government, because we have been given at least 3 versions of what they are going to do. Currently, we are told that rather than the £2.5 billion programme that was to go ahead, which they announced roughly a year ago, they're now proposing to spend 580 plus million on some part of that programme. Now, we are left in the dark exactly what they intend to do. Officers are trying to estimate what that might be within that total programme, but they are not sufficiently informed to give anybody a true picture, because they don't know. And they don't know because your government is incapable of spelling out exactly what it intends. It's dithering, as it always has, and it has consistently done for the previous 5 years. So we do not know where we stand with regard to Transpennine upgrade. And I suggest to you, we might be waiting another 6 months at the very least before we get that total picture. So if you could bring anything influence you might have to bear to get them to be clear with Kirklees exactly what they intend, that would be most helpful.
Thank you. Martin, you got supplementary? Yes.
Yes, the points I picked up there was dithering, unaccountable and unsure, which I'm not sure if Councillor McBride was talking about himself. Because when I've been to the information sessions that Network Rail held at the stadium, and when I've spoken to them online, they tell me that Kirklees have responded to the things which they were showing, that all the road measures and everything else have been done in conformity with Kirklees. So rather than waffling, dithering and being unsure, Peter, where can the residents see the information which you and your staff have already put in about this? Not something which might appear in the future, that on which the current proposals are based.
When we get the total information, that will be most evident. With regard to the 580 plus million that they're now proposing, we can guesstimate what they might do and give information accordingly. We presume that certain things will happen come what may, that there is going to be 2 tracking and that it might go to Ravensthorpe. That is an assumption, but officers are working on that basis. At the moment, They are looking, as I am, for clarification of what exactly is being proposed by Grant Chaps.
Thank you. Next question is to Councillor John Taylor. John, you got another question, and then I've got Nigel Patrick after that. John.
Thank you, Shabir. Although you just said the next question was to me, but you can quiz me if you want. I'm afraid. Yeah. I'm afraid it's
my
another question to Councillor Mather. I wonder if she would be happy to make public and put in the public domain the specific health and safety issues she refers to that are preventing us from recycling cardboard. Currently, we're able to recycle glass, we're able to take electrical equipment, we're able to take garden waste, we're able to take general waste, we're able to take all sorts of other types of waste to the recycling centres, but not cardboard. So I do struggle to understand what is so dreadful about cardboard in this pandemic that is preventing that from being something that can be recycled when everything else can currently be recycled. So I'd be grateful if she could enlighten me on that, and also if she would commit to making public the health and safety issues that she's currently tackling around making cardboard able to be recycled through our recycling tips. Thank you.
Nahid.
Thank you, John. As I said before, I am awaiting a response. I'm sorry you did not get a response to your previous questions at the last cabinet, and I will, of course, once I have a response in relation to the situation, I will have that too. As I said before, all these things will be considered in our consultation, which is due to start next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supplementary.
John, you got a supplementary? Yeah.
Yeah. My request, which I'm not sure she's answered, was will she make public the health and safety issues which she says are preventing us currently today from being able to recycle cardboard? So you said there are specific issues which are preventing, you said it was health and safety issues to do with the pandemic that are preventing us from recycling cardboard. And my point is we can recycle and take everything else to a tip, but not cardboard. So presumably there is something about cardboard which you are saying is the reason why we cannot take it to the tip. And I'm interested in knowing what that is, because I really struggle to understand what it is about cardboard that is so toxic that we can't currently take it to the tips. So I'd ask that you provide that information in the public domain.
And as I've said, Councillor, I will provide the information once I have the queue.
Right. Okay. So, John, she's saying yes, she will as soon as she gets it. I've got Councillor Nigel Patrick and then Councillor Martin Bolt. Nigel? Question, please.
Thank you, Chair. Rural crime is on the increase, and people living in my ward are doing what they can to secure their properties. Some people have replaced field gates with electric gates. I can think of a number of cases in my ward where your public rights-of-way service has taken action against landowners to remove these electric gates, even though the gates do not obstruct a public right-of-way. Why are you waging war on people who are trying to protect their property when there are public rights-of-way across this borough that are impassable, in a dangerous condition and totally obstructed?
Is that Councillor Rob Walker? Rob, is that yours? Obstruction, public rights-of-way, gates.
Yeah, the public rights-of-way is. Yeah. Well, firstly, I would just say that we are by no means waging war with anybody. The public rights-of-way team are working within the regulations to ensure that public rights-of-way are protected.
How long?
Supplementary.
Yes, Nigel?
Who sets the priorities in the public rights-of-way service? I ask this question because staff tell me they don't set the priorities. So do you set the priorities, Councillor Walker?
I I don't work on the detail of things. When some issues that come up, particularly if people have reported them to me directly, I may get involved with. Otherwise, the team work under their service head to decide the work that they're undertaking.
Right, thanks. Now, we've actually run out of time, Councillor Martin Ball, but because I've known you for a long time, and I know you really got heart of gold, I'll use the chair's discretion to allow you the final question. So, Martin, your question, please.
You are, as always, you are generous to a fault.
To you.
And I won't say what the fault. I won't say what the fault is.
Right, okay,
question
Martin.
for Councillor McBride. We were previously told that the £77 million Cooper Bridge bypass has been changed 3 times since the public were consulted on it. A considerable expense to this council of the public consultation. Yet those 3 decisions for change have not been taken through Cabinet or any other public decision-making body. We don't know the cost, we don't know the difference, and we don't know the alignment of the route. Where is this information about a key transport scheme, and when can we see it?
You've been informed of the various different alternatives which have been proposed at given points in time. So initially, we were talking about a big roundabout at Cooper Bridge, which is not the scheme that we're now going forward with. Subsequently, we came up with a scheme, and you were made well aware, as every councillor was, about one which would distribute the traffic between 3 locations or 3 routeways. Subsequent to that, we learned that in order to achieve the other object, we were going to have to knock down half a wood. We decided, at least at my instigation, that we would not do that because the loss of trees was just unacceptable. Therefore, it was back to the drawing board. That is where we currently are. And I realise that this is another challenge. How do we fit in all of those things that we want and at the same time kick back on a scheme that really is not acceptable? And so currently we're looking at an alternative way of achieving the same objectives. Now, this is a long-term scheme. It is not going to come to fruition for quite some time. So the planning of it is still being worked on. But the way in which we progress this, the council has been kept fully informed about all the way through, to the point of what we've rejected and why we have rejected alternative schemes. And as the ultimate comes forward, you will be fully informed, as I will, of exactly what we're going forward with.
Thank you. We've run out of time, so thank you very much, members, for bringing them questions, and thank you, Cabinet members, for answering them. We'll move on to item 8, ad hoc scrutiny report, consultation on future arrangements of the management of council residential housing stock. We've got Councillor Liz Mage on the line, who will talk to the item, and I'd like to thank her for all the hard work her and the panel have done on this. So, Liz, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Pando. The panel met on 5 occasions through June, August and September, and our comments are based on our original recommendations that we put forward. For the recommendation on form follows function, at this time the panel had no further comment to make. It may be, though, when recommendations are updated to scrutiny at a later date, that there may be comment at that time. The panel also asked for scrutiny to be updated on the recommendation in relation to best of both models at a later date. The scrutiny panel looked at engagement materials prior to the engagement process being carried out, and we made some recommendations for change which were acted upon. We also had a midpoint update and a final update after the end of the consultation process. Whilst the panel were content with the process as it had taken place under difficult circumstances, we have put in our action plan that we would hope that officers would look at new and improved ways of engagement, learning from this process. There was a low response from younger tenants and from those that indicated they were from a BAME background. We know it was difficult, but lessons need to be learned and new approaches taken forward for engagement in the future. Maintaining the voice of the tenant is very important moving forward, and some of our original recommendations were in this area of work. As part of our update, the panel had sight of the proposed future model for tenant engagement and did make comment that there needed to be more engagement with young people with different ways of engagement being found. We would like to see how the Housing Board and the advisory panel engage and listen to the wider tenant and leaseholder body in the future, including ways to hear from those younger tenants, children of tenants, young families, as well as ways in which to hear from different communities across Kirklees. In respect of a strong tenant voice in decision making, it is important that this voice is seen as integral in any changes and in governance going forward, that these views are fed directly into any cabinet decisions on housing. Scrutiny have asked for updates as to how this works in practice should the new governance be approved. Scrutiny Management Committee would also like to see a greater involvement from ward councillors moving forward. In respect to the Assurance Board, we have seen the proposed terms of reference and made comment, especially around there being an independent voice on that panel, as well as panel members' qualifications and CPD being kept current. Scrutiny, as I've said, would like to be updated on the work of the board in 12 months, on how it is operating in practice, and how any changes in legislation are reflected in this work. And if I might just make a point on the Cabinet report, we did discuss this in the scrutiny panel. And what I don't think has been mentioned in your report is the level of response of people wanting to take part. It was clear from the responses under the influence and control section of the questionnaire that more tenants and leaseholders would like more involvement. And this does need to happen. There needs to be more opportunities for them to be involved. This should not be the end, a box ticked for a decision. This needs to be an ongoing conversation with tenants and leaseholders. Now the question has been asked and answered, there needs to be more opportunities for people to feel they can make a difference. And finally, I would like again to thank the members of the ad hoc panel for their work, as well as thanking the officers that supported the panel. Thank you, Councillor Pando. I think you're on mute, Councillor Pando.
Shabir?
All over the system. Other people have got, I'm just trying to manage the meeting. Other people have got the control. So hopefully you can hear me now. Yes. Councillor Cathy Scott. Cathy, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to take the time to thank Scrutiny for this exceptional piece of work. It's been outstanding, and the amount of time that they've been given, and it has been in hard times, with the pandemic and also tenant involvement. Councillor Smage is absolutely right. People do want to be more involved. That will be later on where I'll be mentioning that. And I just want to commend you for all your efforts and the time that you have spent. And I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, thanks, Cathy. And I'd also like to put on record my sincere thanks to Councillor Smage for her leadership on this particular item in terms of the ad hoc scrutiny, and all the members who took part and all the officers who actually supported this valuable piece of work, because it does actually throw up a lot of key issues. And one of the key issues for me is actually tenants feeling that they need the service to improve, and once we move forward and get everything sorted out, the aim and the objective and the ambition is to provide a better service to all our tenants. This is what it's about, by bringing it in-house. So once again, thanks very much. So can we go? Do we need to have a formal vote on this, Lee?
Yes, we'll go. I'll do the roll.
Yes, I second the recommendations as detailed in the report. Lee? Yes.
All in favour. Councillor Pandor?
4.
Councillor Kendrick?
4.
Councillor Khan?
4.
Councillor Mather?
4.
Councillor McBride?
4.
Councillor Patterson?
4.
Councillor Scott,
4.
Councillor Turner,
4.
and Councillor Walker.
4.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 9, decision on the future model of housing management and maintenance of Kirklees neighbourhood housing. Councillor Cathy Scott. Over to you, Cathy.
Thank you, Chair. The decision on the future of the management and the maintenance of Kirklees housing is here before us today at Cabinet. The pandemic has shown us that not just how important housing is to people's health and well-being, but it's also about listening to our tenants and the leaseholders, and it's a critical part of when we're taking any decisions, and there's decisions about the future of the council housing, which Councillor Smedge did allude to earlier about the importance of the involvement of people. This is why, in June, Cabinet took the decision to consult with the tenants and leaseholders on their views for the future of the management of the council housing to ensure that their voice was at the heart of the decision making. This was conducted over an 11-week period, which was between June and September, through a variety of ways, including questionnaires being sent to over 22,000 tenants and leaseholders. We received a great response, and I thank those that took the time to share their views with us. It will prove invaluable in making the council great at delivering its housing achievements. We've received over 2,500 responses, which is exceptional. And there was key messages from the consultation was that the tenants are less concerned about who delivers their services, are more focused on the quality and the impact of the services that they have, and it's on their homes, their neighbourhoods, and where they live. The feedback also indicated that tenants would like to be more involved in the decision making, and I'm passionate about ensuring that this and the tenant's voice is heard in all decisions in our services. In all services that we receive, and all the reports and the reasons why we're establishing things, the tenant and the leaseholder has to be key in this. Their voice is the most important thing. That's why a housing-led advisory board, we're setting that up, and that'll be there to influence and help Cabinet in when it's making its decisions. Council housing should be run by the council, but it can mean better alignment and integrate the skills and the capabilities of the Kirklees neighbourhood housing staff, as well as council staff, in delivering housing in a place-based way. And I would also like to recommend this proposal for approval, but it's not just about bringing it back in-house. We've got a tremendous skill set of all our staffs across K&H and the council. Bringing it together can only lead it forward. But before I finish, what I would like to say is I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the board members in particular in K&H for the way they've worked with the council on this review. I'd also like to thank the staff of K&H and the council who equally have worked together on this proposal. They've already demonstrated, as I said earlier, about the benefits about joint working together and about delivery. I'd also like again to thank Scrutiny. That second eyes over documents and listening to people sometimes can help shape things for the future, which has been invaluable in this journey. I'd also like most of all to thank the tenants, all those that took the time, and your contributions will be valued in the future as we move forward. So I move the recommendation as set out in item 14 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. I've got a couple of members who are wanting to speak. I've got Councillor Tony Smith. Tony, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd also like to thank Councillor Smedge and the other members of the scrutiny panel. We worked really hard over the last few months in difficult circumstances, and hopefully we've been objective and fair in our recommendations. I'd also like to acknowledge the huge efforts made by officers so far in this process, in particular with respect to tenant engagement, where they've not only followed but gone beyond the TPAS good practice recommendation, drawn out a wonderful response. And thank you also to tenants and leaseholders who have responded. It's clear to me that the option to effectively privatise the housing estate would not improve outcomes for tenants, and I'm pleased that this has been universally ruled out as an option. I do not believe, however, that the Almore model is fundamentally broken, and the benefits of bringing the housing stock back in-house are not clear-cut. There's much at stake, and I still have concerns that in the medium to long term, there is a danger that such a move could result in a loss of clarity of mission, and that the voice of the tenant could be diluted. It is my strong belief, and I believe it is a view that is shared by other members of the scrutiny panel, that any change to model should ensure that the voice of the tenant is strengthened in a way that puts their views and needs as close to decision making as is possible. I recognise the challenges around compliance and risk, and acknowledge that whatever model is adopted, this is an area that needs improvement, with dedicated attention at the highest level and a laser-focused direction in a post-Grenfell world. I hope that the decision made here today will build on the strengths of the Almore, address areas of concern and improve relationships and outcomes for tenants, council and all stakeholders. I hope that the recommendations of the scrutiny panel will be adopted and that there is a continued role for scrutiny in the implementation process. Looking forward, I also feel it's essential that we are able to objectively measure the success of any change in a way that can inform ongoing improvements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John Taylor. John, do you want to speak?
Thank you, Shabir. I think I should start by making clear that I am actually a member of the board of K&H, and I did indicate in the chat that I wanted to register that at the beginning of the meeting, which I think has been picked up. So I just think that's important. I share many of the comments that Councillor Smith has just made, that I'm not convinced that the Almo was necessarily a broken model, and I think it had a lot of strengths, and I think there is a lot of credit to John Bartholomew and the team about the work that they do on behalf of the tenants, and I share Councillor Smith's worry about the loss of clarity, the dilution of that mission, which would worry me. That said, I think there is also a huge opportunity to take some of that learning, to take some of that knowledge, to take some of that excellent work that they do in those very localized communities and spread that across all of our residents, so that we can build on that. So I am torn in this, because I can see sort of both positives and negatives in that respect. I agree wholeheartedly with everybody's comments so far about the voice of tenants. It is one of the risks that, as this becomes another function of the big bureaucratic thing that is a council, there is a risk that could be diminished or lost, or not given the priority it probably is by Joanna and her team, when it's just in the wash amongst all the other competing priorities of the council. So I do worry about that. I also welcome the setting up of an assurance board and the view of how that can over time perhaps expand its remit to look beyond just our housing stock. But again, I think it will be critical to review that, make sure we have the right people sitting on that board, that have the right knowledge, experience and access to the right people to make sure that is successful as well. So I mean, I don't actually know whether I support the move to bring it back in-house, or whether I would have left it as an Almo. I think it's a balance. I don't think it's clear either way. But I think what we do need to be clear, and I've looked and I can't really see in the report where that is made clear, how we are going to measure that. We are taking, well, I say we, you, the cabinet are taking a decision today. So there must be a criteria on the basis of which you're making that decision. And that's not entirely clear and in view to me. So if we were to go in 12 or 18 months time and go, well, did it deliver what you said it was going to deliver, that was over and above or different or better than what would have been delivered had it remained an Almo? I'm not sure at the moment that is clear to me what that criteria is, or how we're proposing to measure it. So that's something that perhaps the cabinet and officers might like to reflect on. I think I'll pause there for now. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Nahid, you want to speak? Nahid? Are you there, Nahid?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to read out a statement of the board's meeting we held on Monday, the 28th of September. And much of what I was going to say has been said by Councillor Scott, but I just wanted to reinforce the fact that we met to consider the feedback received from the tenants to the consultation on the future arrangement for the management of the council's housing stock. And the board was pleased at the level of the response received. As Councillor Scott has mentioned, almost 2,500 people, and it's a considerable achievement given the timing of the exercise and the restrictions imposed by COVID. And the board was pleased to see the link being made to place-based working and how the housing management service delivery can enhance the council's place strategy. A key message arising from the consultation was that the tenants were less concerned with who delivers their housing management service, but more focused on the quality of that service and the impact this has on the quality of the neighbourhoods in which they live. So the board was less focused on the practicalities of who delivers these services and more on ensuring that tenants are at the heart of decision making in whatever future arrangements are put in place to future proposals are placing tenants at the heart of the consultation and decision-making process. Thank you. And I did declare my interest at the beginning. I will not be voting on this item.
Okay, thanks, Nahid. Cathy, do you want to respond to the
I'll just come back to John. You're absolutely right, the comments that you made, John. We have to, at some point, do a reflection on why we took the decision. Has it been the right decision? Obviously, it's the 31st of March 2021 where we're looking for the transition to be successful. But obviously, there's a time that's going to be on. I think in 18 months' time, we need to do a little bit of an update and reflection to talk things through, to say how we're going. But I think what we're doing is merging the expertise within two organisations can only get better for me. I hope that satisfies you, John, but I do think you're right. We do need to have a reflection period on that too.
Thank you. I'd like to support the office recommendations as detailed in item 13 and also the cabinet portfolio holder Cathy's recommendation in item 14. But just a few reflections and some points that haven't been covered. Firstly, one thing is great that nobody wants the Almo, the housing stock, to be privatised. That's a given, and I completely understand and appreciate what Tony and John were both saying, that they're torn between the Almo model as is or bringing it in-house, and there are some challenges there. But let me just reflect back in terms of why the Almo model was first introduced. You will probably recall back in 1997. When Tony Blair was the Prime Minister, there was a backlog of housing maintenance totaling 92 million, a lot of money, 92 million nationally. So across the country, there was a massive problem around repairs and maintenance. And one of the things that Tony Blair government put in place was for councils to actually get the repairs and maintenance money was to actually go through an inspection regime, which was under the inspection regime that wasn't then, to get 2 or more stars to then draw the money down. And this was to actually allow councils who didn't want to transfer the stock to a private landlord, but who wanted to actually maintain an arm's length arrangement to actually draw the money down. So that's what the purpose was. That purpose has been achieved. Kirklees was one of the local authorities, along with many others, who actually went down the road of the Almo and we deliver the money, and the Almo is actually delivering excellent service. So let's not forget that. But one thing what was very, very clear, that the service needs to improve. And what we've done, we looked up and down the country, and most organisations that actually created an Almo has actually done already what we've done. For example, Leeds, they had I think 3 or 4 separate Almos, and all of them have now come back in house, and there are many others. So I think the jury's out, to be honest with you, because we're going to bring the service back in, but I think there will be a continuous engagement with the scrutiny process, because we want to make sure that we tap into the excellent skills of Liz and her team to make sure that we actually keep on top of the transfer once it happens, and make sure that the tenant's voice is at the heart of it. Anthony mentioned TPAS. TPAS stands for Tenant Participation Advisory Service. So we work with them organisation and others to make sure that tenants' voice and the continuous improvements are actually at the heart of what we do in this organisation. And John's completely right. There is a massive opportunity. So we need to learn from what we've already identified and move forward. And the thing has got to be that tenants has got to be at the heart of it. But I also see democracy as being the heart of it, because this will also allow councillors, all 69 councillors, to take a more of a stake in its own housing stock and in the delivery of the management of the local stock. And I think that in itself will actually add to that continuous improvement, because councillors will now feel that they've actually got a direct stake in the housing stock. But there's a long way to go yet. So once again, thanks, Cathy, for all the hard work. I'd like to second that, and let's go for the roll call. Councillor Mather and Councillor Patterson can't vote, so Lee, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pandor?
For.
Councillor Kendrick?
For.
Councillor Khan?
For.
Councillor McBride?
For.
Councillor Scott?
For.
Councillor Turner?
For.
And Councillor Walker?
For.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. We will move on to item 10, Council Budget Strategy Update 2021-22 and future years. Councillor Graham Turner. Graham, over to you.
Yep. Chair, thank you. This is the updated budget strategy. As we well know, we are certainly living in strange times, and some days are stranger than others, with a very unpredictable future. But we have to carry on as a council, delivering great services and responding to the pandemic to keep our residents safe and to protect the NHS. Preparing this report, we have used the best information available and the most up-to-date intelligence there is. I would like to thank officers at this time for their effort and time that it's taken to prepare this report. However, as I have said on many occasions, and will no doubt be trying to say before we get to the budget meeting in February, trying to predict the future is not easy, but in part that's what this report tries to do. We have to develop a budget for next year, quite clearly, and this is the first official step in that process. And I describe this as steady as she goes, and that is the approach that I and officers intend to propose in next year's budget. We are in a strong financial position due to the careful management of our finances over the last few years, and we will get through this year, and we'll be in a strong position to go forward next year, subject to getting at least financial settlement we expect from government, and hopefully a little bit extra, more support this year as the impact of COVID on local authorities starts to increase. We all know that our local authorities have been in the forefront in the fight against this pandemic, and have been supported by extra finance from central government. However, that support will need to be continued as and when the full impacts of the virus feed through to council spending and income. And I trust the government will be true to its word on levelling up the north and funding whatever it takes. Chair, times are tough and they will get tougher, but I know that we have the expertise and the right officers, and this, along with the hope for fair funding settlement, means we will deliver a budget next year that works for all our residents and protects their health and well-being, and starts to tackle the inequalities in Kirklees that are being exposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. We will continue to be ambitious, and we will do all we can to protect jobs and our local economy. Chair, can I ask Cabinet to approve items 7 to 7.9 on page 188 of today's agenda?
Thank you, Graham. Thanks for that. I don't think we've got any members indicating, so I'd like to second the report and officer recommendations. Lee, do you want to take us through the roll call, please?
Yep. Councillor Pandor.
4.
Councillor Kendrick.
4.
Councillor Khan.
4.
Councillor Mather.
4.
Councillor McBride.
4.
Councillor Pattison.
4.
Councillor Scott.
4.
Councillor Turner.
4.
And Councillor Walker.
4.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll go on to item 11, our council plan. This item is going to be debated tomorrow at full council, so I don't want to say too much about it, but just a few words in terms of this is actually just building on the work that we've been doing for the last few years. And on the back of the pandemic, I think, you know, it's a really opportune moment to actually reflect and just refocus our priorities, because the stuff we've known around you know, the most deprived communities and poverty and the fringes of our society who have actually already feel marginalised in terms of education, employment, training, going into higher education, you know, has just been magnified a lot more. So it's given us an opportunity to actually start focusing on making sure that we level up across the whole of the council, across the whole of Kirklees, which part of Kirklees you live in. You know, we've got to look at getting a robust planning action, because I fear that, you know, once the pandemic has actually completely disappeared, the challenge to this council will be far greater. So we will continue to work with local government and national government in making sure that, you know, we actually deliver at a local level. So I'd just like to move the recommendations that this report goes to full council tomorrow, and happy to take any questions, but it's going to full council tomorrow anyway. So who's going to second that? Is it
Chair, I'll second that.
Thanks, Graham. Lee, can you take us through the roll call, please?
Yep. Councillor Pandor.
4.
Councillor Kendrick.
4.
Councillor Khan.
4.
Councillor Mather.
4.
Councillor McBride.
4.
Councillor Pattison.
4.
Councillor Scott.
4.
Councillor Turner.
4.
And Councillor Walker.
4.
That's carried.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 12 now, tackling inequalities. This is another report that's going to cabinet. Sorry, not cabinet. It's going to full council tomorrow for debate. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but one of the things on the back of the council plan, this is actually integral part of the plan to make sure that it's one of the strands that actually fits in to drive the changes and ambitions we're talking about. The pandemic has faced many challenges. There'll be more challenges to come in terms of the whole of the inequalities agenda. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to move off the recommendation on item 6 with a view for this to go to full council tomorrow. Councillor Turner, are you?
Yeah, Chair, I'll second that.
Okay.
I've got Councillor Smage who wants to say a few words. Councillor Smage, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Panda. I just wanted to make a quick point on this report, actually, for the health inequalities side of this report, because health inequalities are going to be maybe different to what they were before March, and maybe a lot wider as well. But there's no mention in the report of the role of the Health and Wellbeing Board and their role in health oversight of health inequalities, nor is the mention of the work they're undertaking on the Kirklees Health and Wellbeing Plan and on the JSA. And I just hope that these two areas can be linked together and not as they appear to be separate at this moment in time. Neither is there any mention of the work on health inequalities that's happening on a West Yorkshire basis. So I just think those things need to be drawn in as well. But certainly the Health and Wellbeing Board work is not mentioned, and I would hope that it is taken account of. Thank you.
Yeah, spot on. But this report, I've deliberately made sure that it's kept very, very short. If you look at page 278 on the actual report for the cabinet, it actually gives you a schematic, and under that, it's actually got some functional areas, housing, health, including all. Yeah. Now, I take your point that the health and wellbeing board isn't mentioned, but this report isn't. How can I put it? It's more of an abstract report, if that's the best way I can describe it, because what I wanted to do is move away from structures and this is about outcomes and actually getting stuff in place to actually address the inequalities, because you've got the Kirklees partnership, you've got a number of other things that are there that actually will drive the bureaucracy. But debate's open tomorrow, so let's put everything on the table, right? Yeah, and the report is going for information, but tomorrow's debate will actually not just be for information; it also feed into how else we can actually improve the report. So thanks for them comments, Liz. Point taken. So Lee, can you take us through the roll call for this, please? And then we'll. I think that's the last item on the agenda. We can call it a day.
Yep. Councillor Pandor.
4.
Councillor Kendrick.
4.
Councillor Khan.
4.
Councillor Mather.
4.
Councillor McBride.
4.
Councillor Patterson.
4.
Councillor Scott.
4.
Councillor Turner.
4.
And Councillor Walker.
4.
So it's very clear.
Thank you very much, Lee, and thank you very much for all cabinet members for attending, all the councillors who have actually contributed to asking questions and making comments. Really appreciate and value your time. That's the end of the meeting, and good night and God bless. Thank you very much.